Hey everyone, it's your girl Janice. Yes, I've changed my intro quip. I wasn't really liking the last one, and I haven't yet really come up with anything I like enough to keep for a while. That's not important. A few things I want to say before getting into this video for real. Sorry for the hiatus for those of you who actually follow this channel's upload schedule, which I'm sure isn't many of you. I've been quite wrapped up with both work and trying to focus on my art, which left my YouTube videos neglected. And luckily, since someone posted the entire Wicked movie, plus the deleted scenes to YouTube, and it somehow hasn't gotten taken down, I'm back with the review of Wicked. Which, yes, I know was kinda stupid of me to procrastinate this movie's review all the way to after the Wicked hype had already died. That's probably gonna be par for the course of this channel. But with that out of the way, let's get into the actual video topic. I'm actually kind of surprised at the hype Wicked got since its initial announcement. Maybe I just live under a rock, but it's been a very, very long time since I've seen a movie get so much press and hype from both the creators and the audience. And at first, like most popular media, I wasn't really interested in Wicked or planning to ever watch it. But after the movie was released, I've been seeing a lot of great reviews and a whole lot of videos of inside jokes about the movie, and I was actually feeling a bit of FOMO, which isn't usual for me. So, I decided to give the movie a try and made a plan to watch it in theaters with Ander. And another thing I wasn't planning on doing, but before the day came to watch the movie, I decided to prepare myself by watching the stage play adaptation. And lastly, of course, even though this movie has been out for over a year now, and the stage play has been out for over 20 years, I'm still gonna add a spoiler warning for those of you who, for some reason, haven't yet indulged in the story and still want to. That all being said, without further ado, let's get started. The story starts off with a flash forward where the Wicked Witch of the West has been defeated, and we also get the first song of the story, No One Mourns the Wicked. Ariana Grande sounds really good on this song. I'm very glad she took her due diligence of retraining her voice to be able to sing operatic notes instead of using her usual whistle notes. I'm very pleased that she took her role as Glinda seriously instead of relying on her celebrity status. I think she did a good job immersing herself into this role. Maybe too good of a job. I wasn't at all distracted by the fact that a celebrity is in this movie, like I'd usually be when celebrities make appearances in movies. It definitely helps that she was an actress before she was a singer. I also want to mention that way back when I first saw Ariana with this hair color, way before Wicked even really began its press, I didn't really like it. I thought it washed her out greatly, and I didn't think I'd ever get past it. But I guess from seeing it so much, I got used to it, and it actually ended up growing on me. I kinda think it looks ethereal now. During the song, we also get a bit of backstory to Elphaba's childhood. Now, as a lot of reviewers mentioned, the movie is quite a bit longer than the stage play, adding more scenes and stretching out a few existing scenes. And like some other reviewers, I actually really like the added length. And in this scene specifically, I really like that we get more insight into Elphaba's childhood and being bullied by the other kids and treated unfairly by her father, rather than only getting the lore of Elphaba's mom cheating on her dad, which is the cause of Elphaba being green, like with the stage play. I also like that during the scene where the Munchkins are burning the statue of Elphaba, we can see Glinda's expression as not being too happy about the situation, which still gives the audience that hasn't already read the book nor seen the stage play the idea that everything is not what it seems. But anyways, one of the Munchkins asks Glinda if the rumors were true that Glinda used to be Elphaba's friend, and we get a flashback into the actual story. We also get the song Dear Old Shiz, which doubles up as Elphaba's introduction into the story. I don't get why so many people don't like this song. I really like the melody and how the choir sounds, and I also really like Galinda's run near the end. And I guess now I should mention that I really like that they designed Elphaba with micro braids. Yes, of course, with her actress Cynthia being black, they wanted to get in some black culture with her hair. And I really like that they went with micro braids because it still allows for the same hairstyles you can do with free flowing hair, which they showcase throughout the movie. I also quite like the costume designs for the Shiz uniform, and I especially like all of the different ways that the students can wear it, instead of it just being one design for the girls and one design for the boys. I also like that unlike in the stage play version, Galinda's outfits, though still would very much get her dress coded if not for nepotism, still somewhat resemble the uniform, using the same patterns. And also, unlike the stage play version, later on, we see that Elphaba also wears a uniform completely unique to everyone else's, though it fits in a lot better than Galinda's. This is also the scene where the future Wicked Witch of the East is given the iconic slippers, which are notably silver instead of ruby, which the mass majority of the audience and people in general know that the slippers are silver in L. Frank Baum's original book, and also that MGM actually copyrighted the ruby slippers. And I really like the design of the slippers. The swirl motif all around the shoes that represents the cyclone that will eventually be Nessa's demise is a really cool detail, albeit dark. And then, of course, the scene where the students are welcomed to Shiz and introduced to the faculty. Galinda tries to suck up to Madame Morrible, but Morrible just ain't having it, and everyone gets assigned to their rooms. I'm glad that in this version, it's at least implied that Nessa gets an actual room with students as roommates instead of bunking with Madame Morrible or any of the other faculty members like in the stage play, which was really weird. So I'm happy they didn't do that this time. One of the teachers ends up overstepping with Nessa and pushes Nessa's chair to help her find her room as Nessa and Elphaba try to protest. And we get the scene where Elphaba loses her cool and accidentally reveals that she has powers. And with this movie being, well, a movie, it has a lot more freedom for theatrics than the stage play, and that's one of the things presented here. I do like that the movie uses this freedom, but I'm a bit split for this scene. Part of me thinks it was doing a bit too much with the theatrics of everything floating around and especially the benches flying everywhere, but another part of me actually likes that it shows that Elphaba isn't completely in control of her powers. And in a wave of misunderstanding, Elphaba ends up as Galinda's roommate, much to both of their dismay, and Madame Morrible decides to open up her magic seminar to Elphaba alone, much to Galinda's dismay. And Morrible also decides to put in a good word to the wizard about Elphaba. Madame Morrible gets a short little song, and yeah, a singer Michelle Yeoh is not. But luckily, this is Morrible's only song, and it's very short and doesn't have crazy notes, so we don't have to put up with it for very long. And we also get to immediately wash our ears out with The Wizard and I. I don't listen to this song much on its own, but it's still a really good song, and Cynthia does a really good job singing the climaxing note at the end of the song. Anyways, Galinda and Elphaba try to get used to being roommates, and that goes as well as most expect, and we get the next song, What Is This Feeling? I don't have much to say about this song other than that I liked it and listened to it a lot, but I really liked the visuals. In the stage play, there was a visual effect for this song that I really liked, which was when the other Shiz students come in and form a sort of army behind Galinda on one side of the stage with Elphaba alone on the other, which creates a really nice visual representation of the dynamic here. Now, with the movie being on screen, there isn't really a way for them to pull this off without it looking super awkward. So instead, they play to the strengths of this being a movie. The unstable camera in some parts of the song, the scenes quickly cutting between each other in other parts of the song, it really shows the tension between Elphaba and Galinda. And of course, we can't neglect to mention the two most iconic sequences of this song, where Galinda and the other students are stepping and tapping their books to the rhythm of the song. That made it really catchy. And then we cut to the next scene, which is Dr. Dillamond's class, where he struggles to pronounce Galinda's name and also becomes the victim of animal racism. Now, not to toot my own horn, but animals are food, not friends is a much better insult than animals should be seen and not heard, just saying. We also get to have a scene where we actually see what happens in Morrible's magic seminar with Elphaba, which is nice because this was completely cut out from the stage play. We also get the song Something Bad. It's honestly one of the more forgettable songs. And right after, we get Fiero's introduction scene. Honestly, I like how this scene went in the stage play a bit better. I thought that the line, maybe the driver saw green and thought it meant go, was a bit funnier than you blended in with the foliage. And also, why is Fiero just randomly prancing around the forest late at night on his horse anyways? Now this next scene is the time to mention that Wicked has quite a few deleted scenes made available, and they were included in the playlist that I watched this movie from, so I will be briefly mentioning some of them here. This first deleted scene is of the news traveling to Shiz that Prince Fiero will be attending the university and all the students' reaction to it. I honestly don't really get the point of this scene being cut. It was a really nice detail to show the news traveling amongst the students and all of their reactions, and the scene of the students fighting over the newspaper and it flying into Glinda's face was funny. Anyways, Glinda gets dressed up to meet the prince, and this is one of my favorite looks of hers. But I'll refrain from talking too much about Glinda's outfits in this review because I plan to make a separate video about them. This is where we get the song Dancing Through Life, which takes place in the library. And I point out the library to say that I don't think I'm a big fan of fantastical architecture that's also just super impractical, such as these rotating bookshelves. This just looks dangerous. But it does aid in some nice choreography for the song. Gonna do a bit of a fast forward here. During this scene, Glinda gets Bach to ask Nessa to the dance in order to get him off her back, and Nessa ends up falling in love with him. This becomes important much later. Later on, Glinda is getting ready for the dance with Fanny and Chen Chen. They find the black pointy hat and Glinda pawns it off to Elphaba and invites her to the dance with malicious intentions. I really want to mention during this scene where Bach dances with Nessa on the dance floor, I really like that not just in the movie version, but even back in the stage play version, Bach actually includes Nessa in the dance instead of just pushing her onto the dance floor and dancing around her in her chair while she awkwardly sways her arms to the music. It was really nice to see. Anyways, Madame Morrible meets up with Glinda at the Ozdust to tell her that Elphaba demanded that Glinda be included in the seminar and gives her a training wand, which I really like the design of. And now Glinda feels bad for setting Elphaba up. Elphaba shows up to the Ozdust in the hat and everyone stares and laughs at her. She decides to dance by herself to convince herself that she doesn't care what others think, and the other students make fun of her even more, and a guilt-riddled Glinda decides to dance with her, and we get this really touching scene of Elphaba and Glinda bonding. Not only at the dance, but also in the scene after where Glinda suggests that they tell each other secrets. Elphaba explains that the green bottle she sleeps with belonged to her mother, and that her dad hates her because it's her fault that Nessa is disabled and also that their mom is dead. Glinda tells Elphaba that none of it was her fault and she shouldn't blame herself. And I really like this line that Glinda says.
That might be your secret, Elphaba, but that doesn't make it true.
Which was also present in the stage version. It's surprisingly mature for Glinda at this point in the story. And we're led into the next song, Popular, and I will take the opportunity to mention that the soundtrack version of the song sounds like it was processed through AI for some reason, especially when she sings the word popular.
I'll help you be popular.
It's so weird, and it's the only song that has this issue. I was so scared of how the song would sound in the movie, and here the weird AI sound is still there, but it's not nearly as prominently noticeable as it is on the soundtrack.
Popular, popular.
But back to the actual song, Popular is one of my favorites, and again, this is a detail not exclusive to the movie version, but I love how silly Glinda gets with her prancing around during the song, and it was really nice to see her go all out here. We get the pink goes good with green line during one of the song's dialogue breaks, to which Elphaba responds with,
Goes well with green.
and this is probably a big nitpick, but I kind of feel like they should have cut this line because here, Elphaba's being all confident like pink goes well with green, but then almost immediately shrinks back into insecurity, which I thought was a bit of a weird disconnect. Like, the writers were scared of letting Elphaba be too shy and insecure, so they snuck that line in there. I think they should have just kept it out. Girl, where are you storming off to in your pajamas? Back to the song, I really like the end where they extend the la-las and the lighting turns a soft pink as Glinda dances during the scene. It was really cool to see. In the next scene, Dr. Dilliman gets fired and replaced with an animal oppressor who is tormenting a lion cub. Elphaba uses her magic to put everyone to sleep, and she and Fiyero escape with the lion cub, and they have a bonding moment. And here there was another deleted scene that I felt should have stayed in because it had a really funny line.
You think I'm really stupid, don't you?
Well, not really stupid.
And we get into the next song, I'm Not That Girl, where Elphaba pines over the fact that she's in love with Fiyero, but he only likes girls like Glinda, or so she thinks. It's another good song that I don't listen to very much. And afterwards, we have the scene that was the worst to cut from the movie, where Glinda confronts Elphaba about leaving her behind when she and Fiyero save the cub. It was a really nice scene, especially since Glinda was more focused on the fact that Elphaba didn't pick her to help with the cub, rather than the fact that she ran off with Fiyero. It added a lot to her character, and not only that, but this scene made for a much smoother transition into the scene where Elphaba's invitation from the wizard arrives, rather than the immediate cut to that scene in the actual movie. Elphaba's invitation arrives to Shiz in this cute little hot air balloon that has a sort of toy animal band on it, and I just want to point out Ariana copying the hippo clapping the cymbals together. Elphaba is set to travel to the Emerald City, and everyone is celebrating at the train station. There's another deleted scene here where Elphaba confronts Bok about leading Nessa on, and Bok ends up absolutely clocking Elphaba.
Could you change yours for Fiyero?
And it's another funny scene which I sort of wish stayed, but this time I get why they removed it. Elphaba and Bok never interacted before this scene, so it doesn't really make sense for either of them to know this much about each other. Anyways, this is the scene where Galinda changes her name to Glinda to performatively support Dr. Dilliman to impress Fiyero, which, I love you, Glinda, but way to make this about yourself. The train begins to leave with Elphaba, and at the last second, she decides to invite Glinda along. And I guess patrons don't need train tickets in Oz. And together they have one short day in the Emerald City. I really like the fashions of the Emerald City and its Edwardian inspiration. I don't know if it was similar in The Wizard of Oz. I haven't seen Wizard of Oz in a long time. And of course, the obligatory mention that the Elphaba and Glinda from the original Broadway run of Wicked, Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth appear in this scene as two of the Emerald City players playing out the story of Oz's origins and the wizard's arrival to the Emerald City. It was a nice Easter egg and a really clever way of sneaking them into this movie without the movie having to force them in. But even aside from their mere appearance in the movie, there are other Easter eggs in this scene, like Kristen Chenoweth recreating Glinda's wand twirling in the second act, and Idina recreating her original battle cry from Defying Gravity. They meet the wizard, and we get a little bit of lore on the origins of the Yellow Brick Road. It was cute. We then get the song nobody cares about, Sentimental Man. This one's also a skip for me, but it does sprinkle in some foreshadowing. Manamorable also shows up. They bring out the Grimoire and get Elphaba to read a spell as a test. It's a levitation spell to cast on the monkeys. A very painful transformation at that. And plot twist, Manamorable and the wizard are actually evil and oppressing the animals and are planning to use the flying monkeys as spies. Elphaba runs off with the Grimoire and Glinda chases after her. This is another scene that had an extension from the stage play, and I think the extra stuff really added to the intensity of this chase and this whole situation in general. And this is where we get into the highlight of Wicked, Defying Gravity. And of course, just like everyone else, I love this song. I love songs with huge climaxes, and this one has the biggest climax of the soundtrack. It's also the scene where Manamorable puts a public hit on Elphaba, which sends her father into an early grave. I really like the visuals that accompany this song, but I do have a bit of a glaring issue with it, and that is the lighting. Especially in the beginning of the song, it's really dark in the room Elphaba and Glinda are hiding out in, which doesn't sound like it should be that big of a deal, but it's during this song where Elphaba is taking the biggest stand she's ever taken. This song is all about her, and therefore this scene should be all about her. So what does the lighting have to do with this? Well, Elphaba has dark skin, dark hair, and dark clothes, whereas Glinda has light skin, light hair, and light clothes. With the room that they're in being so dark, it visually blends Elphaba into the shadows and makes Glinda stand out, when this scene should be the opposite. And furthermore, during the first chorus where the music is bright and hopeful and Elphaba is being bright and hopeful, the room being so dark and cluttered sort of disconnects with it. They did eventually move the scene to outside, which was definitely a good choice, but I think it would have been neat if they did something similar with the pink lighting in Popular and sort of gradually brightened up the scene as Elphaba sings the first chorus, and maybe have it going back to being dark when Glinda tries to talk, or sing, her out of this. Now, why am I harping so much about the lighting here? I don't know. I guess I just don't usually notice things like this until someone else points it out, and I'm glad I was able to notice this for myself. This is also the scene where we get the iconic flying broomstick, and also where Elphaba gets her cape. Why did she wink like that? There was also another extension made to the scene that I really like. Before the big climax where Elphaba is flying, she actually ends up falling when she tries, and it's really dramatic, and she sees a reflection of her younger self in the side of the building, and she grabs onto the broom and saves herself from hitting the ground, and we get to the climax of the song. Now again, with the visuals, I do like it, but something about the scene just feels barren. But I do like the addition of her causing a blackout in the Emerald City. And I know that quite a few people didn't like that her cape magically got super long in the scene and point out that the only reason it was so long in the stage play was to hide the mechanism that gave the actresses the appearance of flying, but I honestly vibe with the long cape for this part. It's dramatic. And this movie ends with this song with a to be continued screen because, as most of you know, the movie was split into 2 parts and we had to wait an entire year to finish the second half of the story. I really like this movie, not just as an adaptation of the stage play musical, but also as a movie on its own. I was not expecting to make so many comparisons to the stage play, but it just ended up happening. The actors were great, the songs were performed excellently, the costumes were beautiful, and the story was beautiful. I'm very glad I decided to step out of my comfort zone and give this movie and the stage play a watch. Even though I saw the stage play and therefore already knew how Act 2 went, this movie made me excited to see Part 2. And yes, I have seen Wicked for good by now, and boy do I have quite a bit to say on that movie. But that review will have to wait for another kind soul to risk their YouTube account and post the entire movie completely unedited aside from cutting it down into multiple parts set in a playlist. I'm excited to make that review and later on make a rating video on all of Glinda's outfits. Thank you all so much for watching, and with that, I'll see you soon.